Hey Lanternpreneurs, here's another vlog for you that I was so excited to do with Shelly Shepherd from 100 Things to Do.
Hello.
And I just want to quickly let you know about Shelly's blog. So 100thingstodo.ca now has, the best one was 80,000 page views.
80,000 page views in a month.
And how well is it doing on Pinterest?
500,000 a month.
500,000 pins or?
Pins a month, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So if you're a business and you're looking for a DIY target audience, you definitely have to advertise on Shelly's blog. It will give you a lot of traffic. So today we're doing a little video about one of her projects. And what are we making today?
We're going to make some rustic outdoor lanterns ready for your fall and Christmas decor. So these are a knockoff from another blogger, Amy Christ. And she, I guess, knocked these off from Pottery Barn. So we're just making a variation of that. Her measurements and sizes didn't quite work. So I've changed it up a little bit to make a tall and a staggered height outdoor lantern.
So yeah, this is how you make one of these lanterns. Enjoy.
So it's a Pottery Barn knockoff lantern. So instead of paying the $80 Pottery Barn price tag, we're going to use a 1x4 and a 2x2 and make a, well, this will probably make a couple of them. So we'll make our lantern will come in around probably $6 when we're all said and done. And it's not difficult. I did screw up the first time, but the second time will be much better. So we're going to start with our 1x4 because this is going to make the base and the top of our lantern. So I need, your base is going to be 8.5 inches square. I'm going to cut it after it's ready. So I'm going to start at 17 inches. So it doesn't look like much just yet. But believe it or not, that's your roof and your top. So I want a solid plank. But plywood looks terrible. So this is going to give you kind of the nice, I don't know, rustic kind of cabin look with the seams like that. It's bigger than 8.5 inches, but we're going to cut it down afterwards. So this stuff, believe it or not, is almost better than nails. We're going to use Gorilla Glue along the edge here. We don't want too much to ooze out because then you can't stain over top. It leaves a terrible, I don't know, like a bleach mark on it almost, and then the stain won't adhere. I learned that the hard way. You see my other projects with lots of bleach marks on them. Oops. So this is double what we need, but we're going to cut it down afterwards, and this is why the pants, so I can just wipe off. Then we need my clamp, because we're going to let this dry just for a few minutes to get it nice and tight. There we go. So this guy, we're going to cut that section out. Let's try this one more time. I'm trying to look professional and it breaks on the first thing. Okay, now we'll slide it. And we're going to let that set. I'm going to put something heavy on it just so it doesn't pop up again. I have 50 cans of paint, so that's just kind of easy to plop that on there for that to dry and set.
How did you get up to 50 cans of paint?
I keep wanting new colors. This is the one I screwed up on, so this is how I know, hopefully, how to do it right this time. My second lantern, this is not how yours will look. Yours will look better. This one, my 2x2s are 18 inches tall. So for my second lantern, I'm going to go a bit lower just so I have staggered height. So I think I'm going to make my second one about 13 inches tall. So I just have to cut my 13 inches. I'll need 4 of these. These are going to be your corner points. And I'll do the same thing as last time where I take one and use it as a template. Can't hear. We've got our 13-inch pieces. So now the connectors. So this is the front. Oops. You'll need the connector to go in between here. And I know from my screwed up version that that's 5.5 inches times 4 sides. So 1, 2, the back, The side is 4, and you'll need another 4 at the top. So we're going to cut 8 pieces at 5.5 inches. Okay. Now I'm going to show you my new tool that I love so much. Most girls, jewelry and flowers. I wanted a Craig jig. So what this does, it's been well loved. This puts, I'm going to line up my piece of wood, and this is going to drill an angled hole down into the wood so that it'll go in into an angle. So when I want to connect it to the base, the screw will be on the inside, so you won't be able to see it, and it'll go into the base and make a really nice strong hold. You'll see in just a second. The only thing is, before you start, you have to measure the depth of the wood, which is 1.5. So I've set my Craig jig so that the base of the drill lines up with the 1.5. I've also set this one so that it's at the 1.5 line for the depth of the wood. So now I put the piece of wood that I'm going to cut into, whichever side is going to be my inside. So I think I'm going to hide this seam. So that'll be my inside. Line it up with my Craig jig. This is just a clamp so that it stays nice and tight in place when I drill. And then I'm just going to go down the center hole, and we're going to do it twice on each side. Once to drill it into the base, and then another one to drill it up into the roof. So on the same side, we're going to keep all the holes on the same side so they don't show on the outside of your We've got all of them pre-drilled top and bottom. We're going to go back now and cut down our base because that's what we're ready to drill into. And it's pretty solid. That's only been 5 minutes or so. It's pretty solid. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. So we're going to go for 8.5 inches. I just unplugged my sock. And this should split it perfectly in half for us. Perfect. Look at that. Beautiful top and bottom, the sides, we're almost ready. Now I need to do a little bit of sanding to get this stuff off. It's harder once the thing is put together. So I just gave it a light sanding. You can do better sanding afterwards, but just enough to get the really scruffy, rough stuff off. And this is the drill bit that comes with your Craig jig set. So we're going to need some, I believe we're going to need some 2-inch pocket screws here. You can double check this. Get the drill out of the way. Lining it up. This is the pocket hole. So the drill goes, the screw goes down into it. So no, I actually need something longer than a 2-inch. So we're going to go with, we will try, let's see, 2.5 inches is going to get me where I need to be. And 2.5 inches is going to be perfect because it's going to go down into 2.5 inch. Might be too long. Let me check the 2 inch again. That's a huge difference. Does that look like, I guess that's a 1/2 inch difference. Okay, we're going to try 2.5 inch and try not to go through the entire bottom board. Fingers crossed. You may hear some swearing. So you're going to line up your posts. You want your pocket screws. You can do this, by the way, by just gluing and screwing through the other side if you don't want to do the Craig jig, if you don't have one. If you don't want one, just pre-drill your holes because the wood cracks if you don't pre-drill your holes first. I just like the Craig jig because I bought it, and if I don't use it, my husband's gonna leave me. So we're gonna put a little bit of glue on the bottom. It'll hold really well without, but I see all the other builders online say to glue and screw, so I better follow suit. We're gonna put that on the corner. We want the 5.5 inch pieces to go in between, so we can kind of guesstimate. I don't think we're gonna need to be in from the corner. Nope, it's gonna take us end to end, which is just perfect. So we rest that on the corner there, and then we just put our 2.5 inch screw in, and it's gonna guide it all by itself. Bleep! It's gonna guide it in so easily all by itself. There we go. Now we're in. I'm just gonna straighten it there, turn just a tiny bit. There we go. So we're just gonna repeat that on all the sides. A little bit of glue, a little bit of screw. Get your minds out of the gutter. Oh, I guess I should check and make sure that didn't go all the way through the other side. We're gonna back that screw up just a little bit. That's okay, because there's still something else going there.
Can I see the bottom?
We're gonna put legs there, so don't worry, that won't poke you later. So really, maybe I can tighten that back up again. So no, 2.5 inch pocket screws are a little bit too long. Okay. Da-da-da! What do you think? We made a table! Oh! Shit. We made an uncomfortable table. Let's go back this way again. And this part you can nail in if you want to, or screw in through the sides. Because they're really just decorative, I'm just going to glue them into place. These are your lower, I don't know if they're called cross beams, cross braces, cross something. And I'm going to get that glue off afterwards because the stain won't stick with that on there. If you wanted, you could use a finishing nail and go in through the side, go down through the top, might even be easier. But honestly, they don't do anything except for look decorative, so you don't have to do anything fancy to get them into place. So because I didn't put finishing nails in this, which you really don't need, honestly, this glue is crazy strong. But to put the cross braces across the top, the glue is strong once it's dry, not once it's wet. So if I put them in now, oh, it might be a tight enough fit to stay. I was worried that they would just fall. So, okay, we will continue on. Never mind, it's not a conflict after all. We got this. I forgot that wasn't glued on. So, we're going to go back, turn our uncomfortable stool upside down, and find the nice side of your base and line it up. Because we're going to do those pocket screws again into this bottom part. Now the dilemma with this part, just pretend that that did not fall off. Reglue that. The problem with the bottom part is we don't want these uncomfortable screws to come through the top because you will see it in the top. So if you're using 2 1/4, you're laughing. I'm using 2 1/2, so I am going to have to not go all the way through, or all the way as deep as possible, I guess. I'm not going to screw as deep as possible. This is R-rated building. My husband calls that stripping the screw. I call it sound effects. Another piece fell off. Okay, so when you're building yours, you're going to put these cross sections on last so they don't keep falling off when you're drilling everything else. Son of a monkey. Okay. So we'll do a rewind here. Now we're going to put in our cross braces. So before we started filming, I cut these little tiny legs for the bottom of it. They are 1 inch by 1 3/4. It was just leftover wood I had. So it can be anything at all. It doesn't really matter. You're not going to see it, but it'll keep your, if you're using your lantern outside, it'll keep it from sitting in moisture, because then all this wood will rot. And if you paint it or if you stain it, all of that will bubble up and wreck. Just having it a little tiny bit off the ground is going to protect it to last a little bit longer. And again, we're going to go with the trusty glue. Okay, we're going to let that dry for a minute. So the weight of the lantern itself is putting weight on the little tiny legs, so they're going to adhere. I'm hoping my little cross bases now have enough glue and gravity to let those dry. But the part that we're going to work on now is the little, almost decorative top part. So this part is, I believe, 5.5 by 4 inches, and that'll make a perfect square. The 4 inches, my wood for that is 3/4 of an inch thick. So 4 plus 3/4 is 4 3/4, plus 3/4 gives me 5.5, and that makes it a perfect square. That was a lot of math yesterday to figure that out. So I took my 1x4, cut it at 5.5 inches, and then just cut it in half, because I don't need a huge topper. Same as the 4. I cut a second piece from the 1x4 at 4 inches, then just cut it in half. So that's going to give me a hopefully perfect square. We'll see. We get it in place here. Look at that, it's beautiful. 5.5, and I know that that's 5.5. Yes. Okay, so this is just to give the, right now it looks like, you know, an American Girl stool, which is fine if you have an American Girl doll, but if you want it to look a little bit more like a lantern, you just want the decorative piece on top here. I guess I should say with this lantern is because we've put a solid top on it, I don't know if you're really going to want to light a candle in it. It will start to burn up in here. I don't think it'll catch fire unless you've got a really tall candle. This is meant more for decoration and possibly a flameless candle in the center, or even a pumpkin or something like that. So once we have our little square on the top, we're going to glue and screw again this piece together. And we're going to pre-drill the holes, because this is where the wood splits on you. Okay, so you've got it so that should just go right into that angle. I'm going to use deck screws for this because my lanterns are going to be outside. So these ones are coated or plated or whatever it's called so that they won't rust. So I put my top square together. I used the deck screws, so they were 2-inch deck screws. So I just put them in the longer side. In the longer side, drilling into the shorter side. We're going to center it on top. I've pre-drilled 2 holes. We're going to center it on the top of the lantern. And again, using the 2-inch deck screws and the right drill bit, we're going to put that into place. Now, the only reason I did it in the smaller sides was to leave you the option of putting a handle in this top part. I'll show you in 1 second. I think that's centered. Let me double check before I drill it down. Okay. And Ryobi or Craftsman or DeWalt, if you guys see this video, I'm more than happy to try out new tools for you. go. So now your top piece is in place. We'll pretend that the rest of my side pieces are glued in. And your lantern is done. Here you have, now you have the option if you want. You would drill a hole in your longer piece in the center and put some thick gauge wire around. Just loop it through the holes and bend it into place, and that would give you a handle if you wanted one. Mine's just going to sit on the ground more like a, I guess, a Japanese lantern. So this is going to be perfect for what I want it for. So just to give us some nice smooth edges, make it look a little more cohesive. The next part I'm going to do is I am going to add a coat of stain to it. The cheapest and easiest stain you can do is called oxidizing the wood. Excuse me. And to do that, you are going to mix, I have it just behind me here, excuse me, a piece of steel wool and vinegar, and you're going to put it in a jar. And when you touch the wood with it, the wood is going to change color. Sorry, you have to let this sit for about 3 days. When you put this on the wood is going to change color in just a minute, you'll see. And what it's doing is it's aging the wood for you. So if you like the restoration hardware kind of look, that is going to be the cheapest and easiest way to stain this. I did it on this one and then sanded it off. And it's, for me, it's come out a little bit too orange. There is another way to do this where you would rub a wet tea bag all over it to bring out some tannins in the wood. Then when you put this mixture on, it'll go a bit more gray. For my second one, because I'm not so keen on that color for me, I am going to go with a dark stain. If you used cedar 2x2s and 1x4s, you wouldn't have to stain it at all. Just put it out on your porch and nature will weather it naturally. But because I used pine, it does need some kind of protection. So I'm just using a dark walnut here. Don't worry that it goes on dark, because you are going to wipe some of it off. You can do red for Christmas if you want. You could try a silver spray paint if you like the chrome look. I have no guarantees on how that's going to turn out though.